There's only 4 games left of the 2024 season for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish going down the stretch. Bye week this week, and there's several changes that I believe the Notre Dame team should consider. Let's talk about them here. Ryan Roberts, A to Z Sports, breaking everything down. Notre Dame football entering this important bye week with only 4 games left. You obviously have affairs against Florida State, Army, Virginia, and USC to finish out this 2024 season as Notre Dame is trying to finish 11-1 and capture a spot in the 2024 college football playoffs. And I believe that this week is very beneficial and very important for Notre Dame as you go down the stretch. You are basically the team that you are going to be for the rest of the season, but there are a few things that I'm very curious about, 4 things to be specific. Let's start with number 1, which is the most important thing when you always talk about a bye week, is for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish team to be as healthy as they possibly can and to get as healthy as they possibly can. We know about the season-ending injuries, Jordan Botelho, Boubacar Traore, Charles Jagasaw, so on and so forth, Ashton Craig included in that conversation, but we have seen this Notre Dame team over the last couple weeks get healthier. We've seen Joshua Burnham return from injury at defensive end, been playing some very good football the last couple weeks. We saw Billy Schrauth return this past week against Navy, starting now at left guard comparative to right guard, his previous stop, and he's their best offensive lineman, so it was a huge boost. We also saw the best game of the season so far for wide receiver Jordan Faison. Now, he's been available in some weeks, but this was the first time that he really looked like himself. He looked healthy. And even though those players are obviously rounding into form, a bye week, I think, is going to be another week that you can get a little bit more rest, a little bit more back into the swing of things, and we could see the best version of players like Billy Schrauth going down the stretch. We could see the best stretch of Jordan Faison, the best stretch of Joshua Burnham. I think those players continuing to get healthier and healthier will help this team. But one of the big injuries that we haven't talked about enough because we hyper-focus on offense and defense is kicker Mitch Jeter, who's dealing with a hip injury and has been sidelined the last couple games for Zach Yoakum, who's been handling field goal duties. We are expected to get him back soon. And folks, I think that's huge for Notre Dame because while the 4-game stretch that they have left, I don't know if there's necessarily going to be a spot for a massive game-winning field goal as time expires. I do think that this is really huge to get him back because if Notre Dame does finish 11-1 and has a playoff berth, obviously you are going to be playing against some really good football teams potentially in the playoff, and in those types of pressure situations, a field goal could be the difference in a game, and Notre Dame obviously has one of the more experienced and more accurate field goal kickers in college football that they have not had the last couple games in a Mitch Jeter. So getting him back healthy could be huge. Second key I want to hit on, and we start to see it start to ramp up the last couple weeks, get Jeremiah Love the football. You need to start ramping up his touches. I understand why early in the season you didn't want to run him to depth and get too many carries under his belt and make sure that he's the best version of himself down the stretch. But now is the time, folks. We need to start seeing him touch the ball more consistently. And we've seen it the last couple weeks. We saw 17 touches against Georgia Tech. We saw 13 touches against Navy, and he only played in 3 quarters. We're starting to see him now being the focal point of the offense. Jeremiah Love is one of the more explosive game breakers in all of college football. Getting him more touches and ready for a playoff run will be very beneficial. Key number 3 I want to hit on, offensive line. Now, we saw a big move, obviously. Billy Schrauth now starting at left guard. They kept Rocco Spindler in at right guard. So after 8 games, we can probably deduce that this is probably the offensive line that we are going to see now moving forward. Anthony Knapp, Billy Schrauth, Pat Coogan, Rocco Spindler, and Emil Wagner. But I wouldn't discount a little bit of competition continuing through the bye week. Because although I thought, and I said this on a video last week, that I thought left guard was the major issue on this team and the guard position just in general, Rocco Spindler has still had his struggles. So a younger guy like a Sullivan Absher, for instance, does he start pushing the needle to getting some reps in at right guard? I probably say it won't happen, but I would not be blind to the possibility that there could be some offensive line competition. You could find your best with a 4-game stretch left rolling into the playoffs. So offensive line competition, something I'll be looking forward and really dissecting closely as we leave this bye week. Number 4, this one I think is so crucial, especially when you're talking about 11-1 and potentially making a playoff run here and finishing out, obviously, the last 4-game stretch. You're going to see some better passing offenses in USC. And then if you make the playoffs, you're obviously going to see some really good football teams. So being able to showcase that you can get after the passer, because obviously with Jordan Botelho out, with Boubacar Traore out, you are in a position where you need to manufacture pressure from the outside a little bit. So does that mean we see more of Bryce Young? Do we see more of Logan Thomas? Do we see Kingston Viliamo-Asa in those pressure situations? I'm not sure what the answer is, but Notre Dame needs to be more efficient from a pass rush perspective on the outside. We know they're going to need an interior pressure from Riley Mills and Howard Cross, but being able to find some finishers on the outside could be huge down the stretch for this Notre Dame season. Folks, bye week, but the content never stops at A to Z Sports. Hope y'all are enjoying the season so far. We're going to talk about Florida State next week. Obviously, I will be in South Bend, Indiana. Folks, no matter what Notre Dame is going through, positively or negatively, you know the drill here on the channel. Go Irish.